And Nebraska, as we have discussed, has a new offensive coordinator in Dana Holgorsen. We're joined now by HuskerOnline Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. How much differently can things realistically look on offense the final three games with Dana Holgorsen taking over from Marcus Satterfield?
Well, I mean, to use an example in your own room there, I mean, when Bill Bush, when Coach Bush stepped in the middle of the year, you can tinker and change a few things over a bye and get guys to do things differently. And they've had 2 weeks of practice now, last week and this week, to kind of look and discuss things. And you obviously can't do it wholesale, but I think there are some things you can do and clean up, and obviously use his play calling skills and do things differently on the game day.
Sean Callahan joins us. Sean, you're not a coach. I'm close. But what do you expect? How much different will this look for Dylan? How could this benefit Dylan Raiola is what I'm getting at.
Well, I think he's got more of a true veteran quarterback coach, a guy that's worked and developed a lot of quarterbacks under some really good offenses going back to Mike Leach and his time in West Virginia and Houston. And, he's been around Oklahoma State. He's been around the block. I mean, when you look at Dana Holgorsen and all the quarterbacks and places he's worked, offenses he's worked with, he knows how to get quarterbacks going and develop them and get receivers open and space people out. So that's his forte. And I believe that's why Matt Rule brought Dana Holgorsen here to give Dylan Raiola the best possible guy that can get him going here now moving forward.
Sean, also, with that being said, if this looks good the next 3 weeks, people are going to question what was happening again with Marcus Satterfield. People questioned that to begin with. It wasn't good offense for the last 2 years. And if Holgorsen can get things righted in a week's time, you're going to have people saying, why was this going on in the first place, right?
Yeah, it's tough, though, because I don't, with the injuries at the quarterback position last year and some of the things, I don't know if a change was going to happen. I mean, I was Matt Rule's guy, so he's made the change now. I mean, it's happened. I don't know how much earlier it needed to be done at this point. I mean, he flirted with Holgorsen back in January, didn't work out, but he's now made this change, and I don't think he was going to pin all the situations at quarterback last year on Satterfield because they weren't even able to run really an offense when they had to kind of switch to a lot of different things to make things work with their quarterback situation. So now they've seen it with Raiola and kind of the direction it's gone the last month, and the change has been made.
Sean, you've talked about this, and it's interesting. I think you sort of were hinting at this with a question you asked Rule the other day. Do you think we'll see this more often? This sort of thing where a head coach makes changes to his staff, major changes during the season with December in mind?
I think, it's so different now.
Okay.
There's 2 dates ahead here. December 4th is the high school signing day. It's really not even a signing day. I know Nebraska is still kind of deciding how they want to play that day and how many kids will end up signing those documents on that day. And then December 9th is the day when the portal opens.
Okay.
So there's a lot of these things, and the coaches don't go on the road. The coaches will not be on the road now until January. So there's a lot of things that you want to do behind the scenes. And with the unlimited coaches you can have now, unlimited paid coaches, you can just bring in and hire more people at any time and put them on the field, where a year or 2 years ago, you were very limited on who could be on the field. And you could get slapped with NCAA violations by having too many analysts coaching. Well, now you can hire guys, put them on the field right away. But this gives you something to sell, though, because that signing day is coming up here. And Nebraska's in on some key players at this point. I mean, they're still in it with Michael Terry. I know a lot of people don't know that or understand that, but they were with him last week, and that's one to watch. They're in with Dawson Merritt, who could be announcing by Thursday this week to Nebraska, flipping from Alabama. So there's a lot of key recruiting things that making some of these changes, addressing them, gives you something to sell because your window is not much after Black Friday. When that Black Friday game ends, you've got about 10 days before it all gets going. And signing day is obviously the next week.
Isn't it possible that you would make that move? And I know Rule didn't address that part of it, Like he didn't say, yeah, I mean, I might get a high profile coordinator in here that can help me land a guy or two and help me land a guy or 5 out of the portal or 6 out of the portal. I mean, that has to be a consideration.
Well, right, because you don't have a lot of time for the portal. I mean, it's a rat race to January. You're trying to get these guys locked up, and you want to have all your ducks in a row from NIL and from what your game plan is. And Nebraska will be very aggressive for the pieces they want in the portal. Make no bones about it. They're being very aggressive right now. If Dawson Merritt flips from Alabama to Nebraska, NIL is going to play a big factor. Obviously, location's a factor too. But they're going to be very aggressive with everything. And then having now a more defined offensive system. And I think that was probably the complaint with how things have gone the last 2 years with the offense. Is it just really wasn't a defined system. You know, if I just asked you, what kind of offense does Nebraska run? I don't think anybody could really give a clear answer. It wasn't very defined in what the system was.
You know what the problem was, Sean? It was defined by the head coach at a podium, but then what the head coach was talking about at the podium didn't match what we saw on the field.
Yeah, you go to the Ohio State game, they ran, they completed 12 or 13 screen passes, whatever it was. Then the next week against UCLA, and granted, those screen passes didn't go for much. They didn't run one screen. I mean, it was very hard to put your finger on the run game, how they ran the ball, the deep ball, the short ball, who they played, how they played, the blocking. I mean, the perimeter blocking has been a huge issue, as we know, too. I mean, there's just been a lot of things that have been inconsistent as we've seen over the last 4, 5, 6 games.
Sean, this week in Nebraska, again, 2 desperate teams. USC 4-5 make a quarterback change. Nebraska 5-4, trying to get their first bowl game since 2016. They came out flat against Indiana after their last bye week, lost 56-7. Could that happen again? What do you think in terms of what this team looks like on Saturday?
Yeah, it's such an interesting game because of Nebraska's coordinator change and Dylan Raiola's health. And then on the flip side, USC situation right now, their quarterback change that they've made with Jaden Maeva and what that's going to look like. But the atmosphere, too, I don't expect this to be an elite LA Coliseum environment. In fact, I think there's going to be a lot of red there. I mean, anytime, and Sip can attest to this, anytime Nebraska has traveled west in the last 20, 30 years, 20,000 Nebraska fans are at those games.
Yeah.
So I do think there's going to be a huge contingent of red in that stadium too. So, I mean, there's some intangibles for Nebraska, and they've got to take advantage of it. They've got to kind of shock USC with the crowd in there, because I do think Nebraska fans will be out there in large numbers.
What do you expect from Maeva? What's that picture in your mind look like right now?
Well, he's got a big arm. He's obviously physical. He's had some ball security issues over his career and turnover issues. So like Nebraska has to try to take advantage of that if you're trying to go at him. But the way he runs the RPO, he's mobile enough to cause you issues. So that will be the thing. Can they handle the mobility of him when he moves around, and can they get him off balance and force some mistakes? Because I think if Nebraska can force some mistakes by him, which making his first start, I mean, it's a big stage for him now to step into. He's obviously a proven winner at UNLV, but they've got to try to get him off his game early and take advantage of it.
Sean, always good stuff. Enjoy LA, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.